What if I told you that the routes merchants traveled thousands of years ago are still determining which countries get rich and which ones struggle? The Silk Road, ancient sea lanes, and forgotten pathways aren't just history. They're literally shaping your economy right now. And in this video, we're uncovering how. What if I told you that the routes merchants traveled thousands of years ago are still determining which countries get rich and which ones struggle? The Silk Road, ancient sea lanes, and forgotten pathways aren't just history. They're literally shaping your economy right now. And in this video, we're uncovering how. Here's the thing about trade routes. They're not random lines on a map. They're the arteries of global commerce. And once a route becomes established, it doesn't just disappear. It evolves. It grows stronger. It becomes part of the infrastructure, the culture, and the economic DNA of nations. Think about it this way. The Silk Road connected China to Europe, starting around the 2nd century. It wasn't one single path. It was a network of routes, both land and sea, that moved goods, ideas, and wealth across continents. Silk, spices, precious metals, and ceramics flowed westward. Gold, silver, and wool moved eastward. But here's what most people miss. These routes created economic power centers. Cities like Samarkand, Venice, and Constantinople became wealthy not because of what they produced, but because of their location on these trade pathways. They were the middlemen. They controlled the flow of goods. And that control meant money, influence, and political power. Now let's jump forward to today. Those same geographic advantages still exist. Venice isn't the superpower it once was, but modern port cities in similar locations, they're thriving. And this is where it gets interesting. The routes that mattered in 1200 AD matter in 2024. Why? Because geography doesn't change. A mountain range that blocked trade routes 500 years ago still blocks them today. A natural harbor that made a city wealthy in ancient times still provides the same advantage. The difference is that we've built infrastructure around these natural advantages. Ports, railways, highways, and now digital networks all follow patterns established centuries ago. Let me break this down with a concrete example. Look at the Strait of Malacca between Malaysia and Indonesia. This narrow waterway has been crucial for trade since the 1400s. Today, about 30% of all global maritime trade passes through it. 30%. That's roughly $5 trillion worth of goods every single year. Why does this route still matter? Because it's the shortest path between the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea. Geography made it important 500 years ago. But here's what changes everything. Control of these routes means economic and political leverage, and countries know it. This is why China invested heavily in the Belt and Road Initiative. They're not just building random infrastructure. They're creating new trade routes and strengthening old ones. They're positioning themselves as the central hub of global commerce. It's the same strategy Venice used in the 1300s, just with modern technology and massive capital. Now I want you to think about your own country. Where are the major ports? Where do the highways connect? Where are the natural geographic advantages? Those aren't accidents. Those are the ghosts of ancient trade routes still influencing modern development. If you're watching this and you care about economics, geopolitics, or just understanding how the world actually works, you need to see this next. Hit that subscribe button. We're diving deeper into how these routes create winners and losers in the global economy. Check out our next video on how modern countries are literally fighting over ancient trade routes right now. Trust me, it's way more dramatic than you think.